I really don't want.
We're live. Here we are.
We were mid conversation about a TV show, so let's just finish that up and then we can jump into
We're
it.
talking
But
about too much. The Lena
too much.
Dunham show.
I just don't want. So for those who are listening, I'm a huge fan of Meg Stelter. She's the lead actress in it,
So great.
and I just don't want any like the commercial or lack of commercial success of this show to impede her future as an artist, because she's so funny and so good. And this show, I don't know how it's doing.
I don't think very well.
I don't
if I
think
had to
very
guess.
well. I don't think very well.
You just want her to be able to like.
I want her to win. I want her to win. I want to see her
flag.
in movies, TV shows. Like I want to see her everywhere.
I have a hot take. I love her. I think she's incredible. I think she's so funny. I liked Too Much a lot, but I do have to say, like, curious. Not saying that I know. Curious if she is an actress. She should, or just a comedian, like, and do that. So I think when you're like movies, TV shows, like I'm like comedy specials, I see for her. I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know. She's great in Hacks too, but she also plays the same character.
Right. Anyway, that's that.
How's it going?
For the show, great, really great. Excited about today's show.
Really fun.
Have had a lot of fun putting it together this morning. We have so much to cover and so much fun stuff to cover. Some
great guests. We'll get into it in a moment. But I guess like just how's life?
We were talking before we started. Both of us are battling a minor addiction to two substances. Mine is Logan Paul's Prime hydration drink, and yours is vitamin C packets.
Vitamin C packets. Kind. And we are going to talk about like wellness addictions actually later in this episode. Okay. But my sister, who is really into alternative medicine of all kinds, had 4 babies naturally. Like she's kind of a earth mama in that way. Not like entirely, but and
I banned the word mama from ever
you know I'm saying it like
we're gonna bleep it out.
And anyway, every time I go see her, I get sick because she has 4 children. And then I went and saw my parents last week, and somehow she had these little packets. Someone needs to tell me, honestly, needs to tell me.
What does it say?
It
Biospheric vitamin C.
Biospheric vitamin C. And just if someone could let me know if I'm going to perish.
Yeah.
I think like where I'm at is we all know about my hand, foot, mouth. We've talked about it.
It's been disclosed. Yeah.
It's been disclosed. And then my immune system's just been low. It got really wrecked.
Totally.
And so I'm trying to build back better. And my mom had some of these who I know she got from my sister. And there's like, they taste the way that you take them is like, you like suck on them. Like you take the goop out of it. And they taste disgusting, but in a way that I like kind of like.
Do you know that feel like it's working? So how are they different from like a emergency packet?
Not a clue. Not a clue. I think maybe
just more expensive.
Oh yeah, perhaps. Exactly. Definitely. This is my last one. So I think we're done. There's also like one of the main ingredients is alcohol, which was like, what?
Okay.
But
maybe just like as a bonding element.
And a bonding agent. Anyway, yeah, I have a low key. I've been really enjoying them. I'm also like on my supplement game right now, like thinking a lot about. Okay, so I was an athletic green girl. We have 30 seconds to talk about this, but I was an athletic green girl.
Time check you.
And I then stopped because $90 a month. That's a crime.
Honestly, irresponsible. Fiscally irresponsible.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's got to go. I'm just going to get a probiotic from Whole Foods. Got a probiotic from Whole Foods. Has replaced my
refrigerated.
Okay. So when I travel, I can't take it, which is a bummer.
Totally.
Okay. Anyway, then I was like, okay, I have a little bit of an allocation of funds that could be allocated towards supplements. What am I going to do with it? Started to chat with people, chat GPT. Okay. And then of course ads just hitting me left and right in the ad game. So 2 things emerged: colostrum and creatine.
Okay.
Colostrum.
I have that word muted, so it's very hard for me to take this story in, but keep going.
It's the worst. Okay. I got it, started taking it, had insane, like was so bloated. I looked like I was in my first trimester. And it's supposed to be for your gut health.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me thinks my gut health is so fucked that it was like, whoa, we can't even work with this.
Yeah.
The biosphere is
Totally.
not accepting it.
Totally.
So
A
now
full rejection.
full rejection. Absolutely
Uh-huh.
no.
Uh-huh.
And so now it's creatine. I have not
Mhm.
started yet because I've heard you bloat at first. And I'm like, we got to get through
Mm.
the summer. I
We
gotta
need
be
to,
in a sweater.
yeah, totally.
So it's gonna be sweater season. It's gonna be creatine season. I'll report back.
Great. I love that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no words on creatine other than too many men talk about it all the time.
All the time. And part of me is like, gender bending. Gender bending.
I love it. I love that for you. Okay, let's get into the show. So this is the Boys Club live stream. Boys Club is, I'm just going to take this one for the sake of time. Boys Club is a media company, and we talk about tech and we talk about culture and how the twine meet, and also community people around the world. We hang out together at events and online as well. And we love doing this live stream, and it is generously supported by our friends at Polygon. If you've touched crypto in any way, chances are you've already used Polygon. It's a chain quietly powering a bunch of stuff that actually works, that people actually use, like Stripe's crypto payments, betting on poly markets, prediction markets, and a bunch more. Polygon is just so incredible for sponsoring this
We love them.
live stream. And that brings us to the agenda. So we have a few minutes before our first guests arrive. We're going to talk quickly about the viral trauma release story, the story protocol story. And then we have some hot takes coming in on Jeni's ice cream versus the New York Times with the guest, Matt Rodbard. Going to talk about A24, going to talk about some AI stuff. We have some quick hits on Soho House and some weird TikToks that we've been seeing on this substance. So that's today's show. Should we get into it? Anything you want to add?
Yeah. No, I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So this post has been going viral on Twitter.
Okay.
2 million views.
Mm-hmm.
This is the original post. And it's basically this person, and it's important that this to understand the context, that this person comes from like tech Twitter, like
Okay.
not even just like tech Twitter, like a sub community of tech Twitter that's like this like rationalist, like SF AI type of what's called like teapot, this type of that corner of Twitter, which is very specific type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But this went viral, and it's basically saying there's this thing called trauma release exercises, TRE.
Okay.
That has basically like healed this person, that they had like, it's been like they got one-shotted by it or whatever.
Healed emotionally or healed physically?
Well, the concept is that both. Yeah. The concept is that you store trauma in your body.
Yes.
And you do this exercise, and it's a very, 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 very effective exercise to release the trauma.
The body keeps the score.
Totally. So this has gone viral, and it's gone viral because basically a bunch of people have been trying it. There's a YouTube video.
Okay.
And a bunch of people have been trying it and commenting on Twitter. This is like finding the hidden factory reset button, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So
there's a lot of people who are like, holy shit, this is like cured me. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about what it is. And then I invite us all perhaps to try it. We don't have the time. As I've learned about what this is, we don't have the time to do it on the live stream together now. But after the show, maybe you could take it and do it yourself. So basically it's this video. It's like a 25-minute video. You could skip the first 6 minutes. It's basically just her talking. She's this yoga instructor.
She's Earth Mama.
She's Earth Mama. She's like talking about all the things that you can expect. She's talking about her practice and her teacher and sort of how she came to whatever. And then she goes into TRE, this version of TRE.
Okay.
And basically you have to get your muscles both like stretched and exhausted before you can get into the state that makes it possible to
TRE.
to TRE. So like there's a lot of like there's like 10 or 15 minutes of like you got to get your calves exhausted, and then you have to like sit against the wall and get your quads exhausted, and then
Is it exercise or is it exhausted stretching exercise?
exercise like you're planked against the wall, like when you do that thing where you sit against the wall and your quads
Oh
quad
yeah,
exercise.
okay.
So you're trying to get your muscles like exercised, I guess, and
Yeah.
like tired,
Fatigued.
and then you're also trying to stretch them out and like set the tone for the release. And then basically after you go through that, there's you lie down on the floor in this position, and you like you do a certain movement with your legs, like kind of like flapping them back and forth, and then you start to like get to a point where you're trembling.
Okay.
Involuntarily.
Okay. A little bit of what's it called? Vaccine. Those videos that went viral.
Yeah, I suppose so. So I do think though that she is, so yes, you're trembling, and the idea is that you're sort of, what happens is your body kind of like takes over in its trembling, and that within that there's some release that happens to the trauma that's stored in your body.
Physical and emotional trauma.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say that what I suspect appealed to the tech Twitter community that really has hung their hat on this over the past 24, 48 hours is that it's like perfect for like a biohacker type of guy.
Totally. Yeah.
It's adjacent to cold plunging, I would say.
To me, it's like men will literally do trauma release exercises instead of going to therapy.
Totally. However, I will say I'm going to try it.
And I know that you will.
You should try it too.
Maybe I will. I think I'm a big believer in exercise. I'm a big believer in stretching. I think all of that. I do believe like you hold stuff in your physical body.
Yeah.
I believe that. But this image is so like unappealing to me aesthetically that it's really hard for me to accept. But I do think like it's, to me, it doesn't feel that different, I guess, to like Shavasana or whatever. You do a hot yoga class, you're tired after, you lay down, you're like
totally. I do think it's an escalation of that.
Okay. Because it's the next level.
Like this trembling thing that happens.
Okay.
I would say I'm not going to judge a book by its cover. This is an aesthetic that of course, obviously it doesn't appeal to me and to most people, I would say. But I think that maybe, why not? Low cost way to try to get the trauma out of the body.
Okay, really interesting. Send the link through.
I will send the link. Okay, quickly on Story Protocol. So this went viral this week as well in a different part of Twitter, crypto Twitter. And basically one of the founders of Story Protocol, which is like a layer 1 blockchain, he left. And everyone was like, wow, you left like perhaps right after all of like your tokens vested, and then you perhaps sold them and then left. And then what's that about? And you raised $130 million and now you're leaving. And I think my take on this story is that there's like all this speculation that's happening around it. We wrote about it in the newsletter. We're adding to the speculation. But what the lesson is from me in the story and why so many people are mad, it got viewed 5 million times, his post. Like that's bigger than like any crypto story. Like that's so huge, 5 million times. So like it clearly hit a nerve. And I'm also like, but also like people in the tech community, like AI people, they're moving all the time, different jobs. So like, what's the difference between that, someone at OpenAI moving to Anthropic and this dude moving on after being at starting Story Protocol and raising a bunch of money? And I think what it is like the flip side of the coin of this like idea of like community liquidity. Like it doesn't, as soon as you have like a community, it's great because it can help bootstrap your network and like it can help bring funding to an ecosystem, but you don't have as much freedom as you do in other places where you're just raising like private capital. And I think that that's like really the lesson in this, is that that's kind of there. If you have this like type of ecosystem play, people are not going to give you as much leeway to do another thing because they feel like they're invested in it. And I think that's a fair criticism, whether or not he left or he was fired or whatever. Like I think that's kind of the lesson in it for other founders, really.
I also think there's like a lesson that I feel, or like just something to reflect on in crypto that's different from a traditional not even consumer tech, just tech in general. Like there used to be this idea that you raise venture capital and like written in the guidebook of that is like, I'm going to work on this is like a generational business. I'm going to work
Yeah.
on this at least for the next 10 years. I'm not capitalizing on the value that I'm putting into this business every single day for 10 years at
Yeah.
least. And then there's some liquidity, there's an IPO, there's an acquisition, whatever. And like that was sort of what you were signing up for as a founder and what you were a spoken or unspoken agreement with your investors. And then that really shifted with, as you're talking about, like the liquidity that is available with tokens within crypto and all this crop of young founders who came out and like did this thing. And I just think there's sort of a resetting around that I think is healthy and important around raising venture and what should be the expectation when you enter into that type of dynamic to be like, I'm going to work on this thing for the next 10 years. And I think when people see something like this, they're like, what the fuck? Like,
Totally.
and I think there's a righteous anger around it that feels appropriate.
Yeah. Fair.
But I don't know what happened with this guy specifically. I'm just saying like generally that type of story. Also, I think there was some people were upset because the Story Protocol did $23 in transaction fees the day before that that's also part of the story.
Totally. Okay, should we move on to
Let's move on. Next
guest?
Let's bring Matt up here. Oh. Sorry. I got it. Okay, let's do it. Hi, Matt. How's it going? Uh-oh, we can't hear you.
We have a volume issue.
I think.
Good.
Wow.
Oh, great.
Wow. And it went extreme zoom. So like now we've got a great crop for me. How are we sounding?
We sound great. Hi, Matt. So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you guys.
I'm just going to do a quick little intro on you, Matt, because it's so impressive. And then we can get into the hot goss. So Matt Rodbard is a writer, editor, and author of food and culture books like Korea World, a cookbook nominated for a 2025 James Beard Award, a New York Times bestseller, founding editor of online food and culture magazine Taste, which is also the winner of 3 James Beard Awards. Matt, welcome to the show. So honored to have you.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're very excited to have you. We are both very into food and food drama and content around food. So there's a lot we could talk about. But I want to start with Ice Cream Gate and like the wars that are going on right now with recipe creation around ice cream. So I will just give a very brief overview. There is a famous recipe developer and entrepreneur named Jeni. She is Jeni's Ice Cream. Many people know her and her work and have eaten her ice cream. And many years ago, she developed a new type of recipe around ice cream that didn't use egg yolks, but used cream cheese and cornstarch, I think. And then very recently, the New York Times came out with a recipe that was very, very, very similar, did not credit her. And now there's a bit of back and forth on the internet about it. I'd love to hear your take. And saying also with the caveat of, I think Dean and I have little to no understanding around recipe ethics and how that part of the world works. So I'll pass it to you.
A really, really great topic to talk about. Taste is part of Crown Publishing Group. So I work at Penguin Random House. So we publish cookbooks and we think about these topics deeply, in the work we do. And so your recap was totally accurate. And I think the big question is recipe, meaning the measurements on the recipe versus technique. Because in reviewing, Jeni Britton's original recipe and the recipe published in the Times, the key difference is this cream cheese element, which is different than the custard base, which is using egg yolks. And I think her original idea was to make it more accessible and not have that eggy flavor and make it very scoopable. The big topic, though, the key point is that the Times is doing 4 tablespoons and Jeni's is 2 tablespoons. So it's not like a copy of a recipe. So like that's the first thing. The other thing is that legally you cannot copyright a recipe. So, and that's cited by Jeni in her response. And I think many have problems with that because obviously when you work in a world where you can't have protections from the legal side, it makes it very gray. And I'll say Jeni's response was great. I think she was very smart in just doing the video. Like at the end of it, she's like, let's just make some ice cream. Like, let's keep the vibes good. Let's keep the vibes right. But you know, she was hurt because it was definitely something that she had published well before in her James Beard Award-winning cookbook. But the technique of using Philadelphia cream cheese in a base and popularizing it for the home kitchen. Now that technique has been used before by professional ice cream makers, but she was one who made it popular. So I think like the net of this gate is that you cannot copyright a recipe. The Times is not really at fault. And I think that there's definitely differences in the recipes. And I think the one thing they could have done or should have done, I'll say, at the Times is credit her. This is something we think about in the book side of our publishing. You know, when we publish cookbooks, and if it's an homage to a restaurant or a creator or a chef, in the head note, it's like really, really key to like credit. Like give that credit. It doesn't take long. It's not like the recipe is what it is. And I think the Times failed at that credit.
Also feels like a very common and very easy thing to do. Like I think I never even notice, honestly, when it happens. And then as soon as you see this whole situation, you're like, oh, it could have just been in the little paragraph right before, inspired by or whatever. But Dina, I interrupted you.
Yeah, just one of the things I did not love from the New York Times side was that they and Jeni put this in her caption, was that the writer said part of his response to her was like, this quote is not how information works anymore. And I just felt like, coming from a New York Times writer, that's like, I didn't feel like perhaps the right thing to say in that moment. But I'm curious if you feel like that's not the way that information works anymore.
So that was a private DM that was aired, right? That response from the writer. And I'll just say he's a freelance writer, to my belief, and not a member of the Times food desk staff. And we think about, you know, when we work with writers at Taste, you know, they're representing Taste even though they're not on our staff. Yeah. And vice versa, we're representing our team of writers. So we have a responsibility. And that was a boneheaded move. Like he shouldn't have. That was a really lazy response to being called out for something. You should never say like nothing is protected. Like I felt that was probably done. Maybe he was like on the subway platform. And,
right. He just fired it off.
Firing it off, catching heat, and like maybe he was exhausted at the whole thing. So like I think it's like a lesson, like do not send a message DM when you're in the midst of these controversies. For anyone who's out there who's in the midst of a catching heat, like, take a pause. Take a beat.
Totally.
Good lesson for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about there's something Dina and I have talked about a bit, just casually in our lives. And Dina just went to Las Vegas, and like sort of the evolution.
Nice.
The best.
We love it.
Did you go to the Martha Stewart restaurant?
I didn't, but that ties in perfectly.
So sort of the idea that like, okay, from our vantage point, the food industry, it used to be like you're a restaurateur, you're a chef, you then end up sort of at the Food Network. Like that's sort of the arc of how sort of content around food was, well, let's call it whatever, 15 years ago. And now it's sort of flopped, where it's like, okay, you have creators, they form an audience online around the food that they create and their aesthetic. And then that turns into sort of these other properties, whether it's a food book or a show. But the thing that I'm curious about is like, what is the Bobby Flay experience? Like, what is our generation of the Bobby Flay experience? Like, what is going to be, is it going to be like Wishbone Kitchens pop up in Las Vegas? Like, how does it become a brick and mortar? Do these creators then go into being restaurateurs? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
I also think like part of what I've been thinking, and I'm dying to hear your answer, but like just to interrupt, part of what I was struck by at being in Vegas and being in amongst the Bobby Flay and this and that, it was like, I also wonder like how much of a business driver it is for them, or if it is like a brand extension that helps with the marketing, the halo marketing of all their other properties, like given how much overhead I assume there to be with like a Las Vegas the Gordon Ramsay experience in Las Vegas. But yeah, also like, so there's a lot of questions in that. And then also like, I don't know, does the Allison Roman Vegas, like that doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Ooh.
But like,
no, I mean, like, I'm friends with Allison, and I feel like, you know, if anyone could, from the creator community and from the author community, could do something fresh, it would be Allison, just full of ideas. I'll tackle your question first.
Okay.
You know, with these deals, and I just had Evan Funky on our show, This Is Taste, our podcast, and we just recorded it. And he has a Vegas restaurant, so he's a big Los Angeles chef and has like Mother Wolf and Funky. And you know, the economics of Vegas are pretty simple. There are none. When you're a chef and courted by the Wynn or by the Bellagio or upstart casinos, you're often offered very, very desirable terms to open there. So it is a very savvy business move when offered Vegas to take it, because what it does is it markets your brand to a wide audience of very different people. There's also, on the like P&L level, there's definitely advantages to working in Vegas. I think that they, while labor is a big cost and union really affects that, they still have like obviously traffic all the time and a built-in audience. Like a lot of restaurants struggle with foot traffic and real estate. Vegas, you don't necessarily have to work that way if you work in one of the premier casinos. So I think they take these deals and they kind of sometimes bury them. So they're cashing the checks, but they're not really talking about their Vegas extensions. And I think that's smart, because I just was there a couple of years. I've been there a couple of times in the past couple of years, and like, you know, mileage definitely may vary when it comes to the quality of the restaurants at these places. You know, I think about like Roy Choi's restaurant's pretty good. I like that one. I went to Spago there and it was really quite bad. So I don't think Wolfgang is up in the restaurant that often. But like still, like going to Spago, you're getting the gram, and it doesn't really matter. And that audience isn't really as discerning. I'm not trying to color the
Totally.
Some people go there to dine. So I think like they take these checks and they cash them and then they move on. And I don't think that the food writing community takes Vegas that seriously. And we've done work where we've gone off strip and gone to Chinatown there, and there's some incredible food there. I think Sarah Thompson at the Wynn is doing incredible work at Casa Playa. She won a James Beard, or she was nominated for James Beard Award. She's a terrific chef doing coastal Mexican, and she's figured out how to dial, like, you literally like walk in from the casino floor and it smells like cigarettes, and you walk in and you're like at Cosme. She worked at Cosme for years. You're at this incredible modern Mexican restaurant. So like you can do it right, but like a lot of times the big boys, they don't really focus on the food quality.
But do you think that there's like do you think that pipeline as it existed, whatever, 10 years ago, can exist now with more like creator-led food? Yeah,
totally. And I love that question too. And that was really smart. I think that it will take a long time to get like Pierce Abernathy and Wishbone Kitchen and, you know, I mean, even like Caroline Chambers, who's like #1 on Substack and a really big influencer. She's not a restaurant chef, so maybe it's not the best example, but I think that audience is still so much smaller than the TV chefs who are like the name brand TV, the Flay, the Martha, the Emerald. But there will be a moment, right, when millennials are the ones who are spending the most money, and it's not boomers.
Yeah.
Because now it's obviously boomers are spending the most money in Vegas. That's got to be the facts. Like, that's who's there. So like 15 years from now, maybe there is an activation or some kind of market that Allison runs, and it makes sense. And like I think Vegas, I'll just close and say like Vegas is really putting money into marketing it as a cool entertainment destination. They're trying very hard to like make it not just about gambling, even though of course they only want gambling and that's make all their money there, but they want people to go there. And like my experience with Vegas, maybe Jeni, you had this. I've been going to Vegas for 20 years. It is so fucking expensive now.
Yeah.
Astronomically expensive. It was not always that way. And I think they're getting like the new Fontainebleau bombing. It's bombing.
Really?
yeah, if you read in the trades and like people covering Vegas, I was on like a weird TikTok journey with like some people covering the casino, like weekly grosses. It was pretty fascinating. And from my read, it's bombing there.
Wow.
No one's doing me. And it was like a very investment. So it was not doing well. And they really were indexed with restaurants, just like on there.
Oh no.
All right.
Are we
we're
losing
having
him?
some Wi-Fi issues.
Oh wait, I think he's back.
Okay, cool.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. We had you back for a second and then we lost you. Oh, I think we lost you, Matt. But okay, two things I want to say really quick. Huge fan of well, first of all, what I want to see from Allison Roman is I want to see a ham party like fast food restaurant in Vegas casino.
Nice.
I'm like, I'm in a Vegas casino. I'm going off. I'm eating a Hawaiian roll with some ham on it by Allison Roman. I would be there nightly. Like that's what I'm hoping to see. Maybe in 10 years, that's what it'll be at the Wynn, or if the Fountain Blue is still available. Matt, so nice to have you. Thank you for joining. I hope to have you back and talk about all things food and Las Vegas sometime soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. I saw a chart what a great guy. I saw a chart that was like, actually Vegas is it's down bad.
Oh my gosh.
Like attendance is not the right word.
We need to rally the troops. It needs to be
we need to get there. Start boosting those numbers. Okay, let's bring our next guest up here. Nicholas. Hi.
Hi guys.
Welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
You do sound a little bit like you're in a box, but
okay.
it is a little bit charming. I'm going to do your intro and then we can get started. So Nicholas Russell, a freelance writer who recently contributed a very fun piece to Dirt. Shout out to Dirt. We could not be bigger fans of the Dirt empire. Your piece was called The Popular Alternative, the State of A24, which is what we're going to talk about today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm going to just speak louder, I guess. If I sound like I'm in a box. Okay.
Okay, so your piece is really about this tension between A24 as a studio and A24 as a startup. Can you give us sort of the big picture and maybe just start like, what's A24 for folks who are maybe coming into this fresh?
Yeah. So A24 started out as a distribution company, a film distribution company, which is to say that they did not produce films, they acquired films at festivals and like trade shows and stuff like that to be shown in theaters in the US. And then they became a production company, like, putting money to produce films. And they're now, sort of synonymous with a kind of very viral and, like, I would argue sort of ubiquitous kind of indie filmmaking that's like both very mainstream and very like the word aesthetic is often used to describe their whole thing, and not just their films, but their social media presence. And they've grown from a very small company to a very large company that has like a lot of sort of VC capital that is backing them. But yeah, in the piece I talk about, this idea that the Hollywood has obviously been sort of ravaged by a lot of changes in the last decade, COVID being foremost among them, but also the shift to streaming and this idea that the mid-budget Hollywood film is sort of dying off, and that it's hard for indie films to sort of break into the mainstream. And that was where A24 came in, as sort of like this cool new place that was founded by three guys who had been in like independent film for a long time, and they wanted to try to do something different. But as time went on, I think people who are unfamiliar, like arguably their most famous film, or two films I would say, is Moonlight, directed by Barry Jenkins, which won them their first Oscar. It was also the first movie that A24 produced, so it was like a huge hit like right out the gate in terms of like proving themselves to the industry. And then more recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which also won an Oscar, or more than one actually. But they've been on this roll in the last several years of, you know, putting out more and more movies at like higher profile, bigger budgets. I think this year's arguably their biggest one is Materialists by Celine Song. I think, which is on track to become their like third highest grossing film. And so yeah, they've become sort of, they're making themselves like undeniable in terms of the Hollywood landscape. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you talk about this in your piece, but I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about sort of the startupification of culture and how you raising a bunch of venture capital, scaling really quickly. How do you continue to like execute on like a cool kid aesthetic or vibe? And like so much a part of that, like we see that sort of in like the Soho House rhetoric and like exclusivity versus being something that's available to the masses and what you lose in that, but what's required when you're raising this level of venture capital and like not just getting cultural cachet and winning Oscars, but being like big box office hits, which they are doing. But I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that will continue to be possible as they're going to like need to keep that clip up?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's sort of the tension I was trying to get at in the piece, and it's ultimately something I still haven't like fully figured out yet, because I think part of the reason it's hard to get a grasp on A24, not necessarily in their ethos, but in terms of like their sort of future focused sort of mission, is that they are very tight-lipped about their plans.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't really speak, they don't give statements to the public really. There was a Bloomberg piece a couple of years ago that was sort of like the biggest piece in terms of like people in A24 like giving access and like actually saying things to a journalist. And from those statements, it just seems like they are trying to be bigger in every single way. Bigger budgets is one thing, but also branching out into a lot of different things. So like they have their own little publishing imprint where they do these really glossy hardcover sort of packages of screenplays for their films, and also like non-A24 related like film books. And also they have a music division. They're not starting a label. They've had a label for their soundtracks, but they're now starting to branch out into producing music by musicians that have nothing to do with their films. So like, you know, they're trying to branch out that way. And I think, you know, since the beginning, A24 has been really good about fostering an audience that is very loyal and is you know, interested in everything that they do. This is something that I talk about in the piece that I'm sort of skeptical of, is like this all-encompassing A24 fan who unequivocally loves every single thing that they ever do. I think at this point, you know, to what you were saying, they're growing so quickly, releasing more and more movies every year and TV shows, that it's like, it's just impossible that they're going to appeal to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you've seen them sort of double down in certain ways on a few quote unquote auteurs like Celine Song or the Safdie brothers or like Alex Garland, who have like been reliable sort of, if not hit makers, then like, you know, they reliably stir discourse or like drive a conversation about something, even if people don't like their movies. I think like you're seeing that right now with Materialists. I think the legs that this movie has had through the summer in terms of people still talking about it is like kind of incredible. And I think A24 sort of thrives on it.
Did you see The Materialist?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I have not yet seen it. I really want to. I saw a very funny TikTok right when it came out. I was not in the US. So I was like, oh, I missed sort of the window when it like first came out and everybody was going. But I saw a TikTok where this girl's like in her car and she's like so excited to see The Materialist, like can't wait, you know, like hyped up. And she's like, but it was around the same time where there was a lot of online fear around us going into World War III. And she was like, I could go into this movie and I could come out and we could be in World War III and like, but I still have to go. And she like goes and then she comes back after she's seen it and she's like giving a review and she's like, I was sitting there and halfway through I was hoping for World War III. And I'm like, okay, that is a brutal review. But then at the end she was like she still kind of loved it and she was still like making a video about it. And so anyway, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the film.
I think, I'm not. Here's something that I think will be like point to a larger sort of issue that's happening in Hollywood that I think A24 Materials is a good microcosm of, is like this auteur thing that I was talking about. Celine Song has made 2 movies, and people still are talking about her as an auteur. This is sort of like a brand, like a labeling thing that is being used. It's almost like a marketing term now. It's like, this person's an auteur. You saw that when Robert Eggers came out with The Witch, and like Ari Aster with Hereditary, and Midsommar, and recently with Eddington. It's not to say that these filmmakers aren't talented or very rigorous or like have a strong vision or whatever, but the label auteur sort of like grants authority even if that experience is not necessarily there. And Materialist to me is like a good example of like, the brand of Celine Song is very strong, and you want to get all the people who didn't see her first film, Past Lives, into a theater. It helps that Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans are in it. But if you saw the marketing for the movie, it sells you a completely different movie than what it actually is. And I think that's part of the reason a lot of people who didn't outright love it were sort of confused, including me, because I went in sort of expecting a rom-com, and I would argue it's not that at all. And I feel like there's a tension there between like what A24 wants people to, how to get asses in seats is like, you want someone to buy the ticket to drive box office sales, right? Ideally, you want people to see the movie more than once, but I think they've been having an issue with certain films that are potentially more complicated, or maybe in my opinion, the case of Materials, less complicated than what is being offered. And so it's tricky, you don't want to like dupe your audience, but you also want to maybe not tell them everything about the movie in the trailer so that they can have something surprising to look forward to. In Materialist, there's lots of surprises, but they're I don't know, they're quite baffling to me. But I don't know that this hurts Celine Song like in any way, honestly. Like box office is one thing, but also she's so firmly ensconced in this like upper echelon of Hollywood indie directors. Like she's going to have a very solid career, and I think that's what A24 hopefully, like I think they hope to offer to filmmakers is like a ballast against certain headwinds in Hollywood, where it's like they can become big enough and sort of a big enough authority that they can be like, no matter what, we're going to be able to usher in these people and make sure that they're successful.
Really interesting. I thought you said Paddington when you were talking about the movies, and I was like Paddington. I was like, oh, Eddington. Okay, I would
love to see
Nicholas, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone who is watching should definitely check out his piece, and we'll link it in the comments. And we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, please. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye. So fun. Also, the thing I kept thinking about is how they found that when people don't want to see musicals, so all the trailers for the musicals over the past few years have had no music in them. Like the reboot of Mean Girls wasn't musical, and like none of the trailers had music in it. And and there was a lot of backlash because obviously people show up like me who hate musicals, and they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Okay. Should we pull up our next guest here?
Let's do it. Carly.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. You sound great.
That's all I ever wanted. How's it going?
Good. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Let me do a quick intro and then we can get into it. Carly Ayres is a writer, designer, and currently program director at Air, a New York City-based accelerator investing in teams building designer-first consumer AI products. Worked in editorial community and product at places like Figma and Google. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
So first, tell us about Ayres. What are you up to there?
Oh, fantastic. We're 6 months in. We're 8 weeks into, we did like a prototype cohort. Now we're in our first cohort, but we've brought on a bunch of really awesome teams who are building design-led AI consumer products in Brooklyn, New York, the epicenter of culture. It's been a lot of fun.
Software and hardware, or just software? Like where
with each cohort we've had one hardware project.
Okay.
Had right now we have
a brave soul.
Yeah, a little bit of each. The hardware projects they kind of expand. They take a lot of space, but we have a 3D printer now. So
cool. So is the whole cohort, is it all in person?
It is.
Oh,
it is.
That's awesome.
We have a couple folks in LA that they make their way out here.
Okay.
For most of it, but it's a 10-week program, I should say. So
okay.
It's kind of a little summer camp vibe. So
cool.
Ideally, you get the most out of it if you're here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's your vision on consumer AI? Tell us a little bit about how you guys think about it, like what categories and like lanes that you guys are excited about and that you see promise in, or like themes or verticals or whatever.
Yeah, I'd say, for us, it's really less about the verticals as much as it's about the founders and their domain expertise. I think when we did our first call for applications, we had like 225, and very quickly you're like going through these, and it's if you're not from this background, if you're not thinking about AI less as like drizzling it on top and more as like truly like what is an AI native experience. And of course, like leading with design. So like starting with an actual human problem, thinking about like your audience, ideally at this point too. Like if you don't have any form of traction, it's almost like inexcusable because you can get so far on your own now that ideally in 10 weeks, again, such a short period of time, like we're going to help you move the needle and you want to be able to make the most of that time. So I'd say for us, the things that we're really excited to see right, we have like a voice first mental wellness app where which is really just these founders pillow talk. They're thinking a lot about it's actually private, with ChatGPT. You might hear your transcripts in a courtroom, but like what does it mean to build an experience that's really like people first, thoughtful, drilling down on doing that really well. It is, trauma related.
Yeah. Wow, so interesting. I want to keep talking about the cohorts, but I do want to leave some time to talk about some of your writing and some of your thinking on design. And you recently wrote a piece called Designers, why everyone is hiring and why no one can find talent. And so I'd love to just give, for people who haven't read it, just like a few sentences on what your thesis is, what you wrote about in this piece.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff I write about is typically it's just like something's been needling in the back of my head. And in this case, it was, I keep hearing from folks who are like, I can't find a job. I just got laid off. Designer folks. We just saw that article, I want to say it was New York Times, about like the entry-level software developer who couldn't find a job. And then meanwhile, I have an entire cohort of people who are hiring. I saw Julie Zhu post this post about how to hire designers. Everyone's looking for designers. How can you like appeal to designers? And it really felt like there's a bit of a disconnect there. So digging into that, trying to figure out why, if there's so many people looking for jobs, why are they so hard to find? Yet it seems like everyone's hiring. And talking to a few different folks, I think most of it is you have to have the skills. You have to have the skills to build, again, these kind of AI first experiences. You have to be experimenting with the tools. You have to be able to prototype and share code with your developers and kind of, so sort of thinking about this super IC independent contributor designer is kind of like the designer of right now. That's who they're hiring for.
So I see. So it's less like people aren't replacing designers with AI necessarily. It's just that there's an expectation now that the designer becomes more cross-functional given like what tools are available to them. Is that what you're saying? And like also probably more experience, like curious
to some extent. I mean, I definitely think like the bottom rungs of that ladder have just been chopped off. you know, if you're a junior designer, you're trying to get your footing, you're looking for an internship where you're going to be like, you know, cropping assets or kind of building certain things in Figma, like pushing pixels is not going to cut it. Those are things that are being outsourced overseas or automated in some capacity. I mean, we saw Shopify now has the mandate that if you want to hire someone, you have to prove it can't be done by AI first.
Wow.
So I think a lot of those roles are disappearing for sure.
Yeah.
But the opportunity is for those who can prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say, I really loved this line in the piece. AI turns every software engineer into a software designer, the same way the microwave turned everything into a chef. And that was a tweet by Mike Rundell. And then you say, companies desperately seeking design talent aren't looking for someone to reheat nachos. They need actual cooking. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and like your experience as a designer and your experience like working with cohorts of people who are design first thinkers, like where that's like, there's a nuance to that, I think, that is a new phenomenon. And I'd love to sort of understand like what has been your experience in seeing where that needle is thread between reheating nachos and like actually doing the work and like creating something new, I think.
Totally. I think there's a certain skill set that designers have always had. And it's like, you know, talking to people, figuring out what they need, optimizing, making the experience better for them, you know, solving problems. And I think those are skills that continue to be the domain of the designer. I think we see other people leaning into that as well. But as far as, no one is bringing you in to regurgitate like what we've seen on Dribble for the last decade or so. Like they want you to come in, they want you to be building something new and interesting in fresh ways. And with, especially with those bigger companies, you know, they're trying to move this like ginormous boat towards AI, which is a hard enough endeavor. And every single person has to be helping them do that and has to be able to, you know, applying tools in new ways and being able to actually build their ideas. So yeah, no one wants you to be in there copy pasting around. But at the same time, it's like, they're tools, you know?
Yeah.
I think AI has replaced some of these roles, but being able to use AI effectively is just going to help you get that much further.
We still need Ayres as our last.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming on. What's the next cohort? Like, tell us about what's next for AIR and where people can find out more or apply and like when the timing for that looks like.
Totally. We're wrapping up cohort 1 in the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to do a little heads down, make things a little bit better, and then hopefully announce the applications, which are currently live, but not actively being reviewed at air.collabfund.com. So
cool.
Find me online. Let me know.
Great.
Excited to hear what you're building.
I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
I sort of have this like working thesis that's rolling around in my head about like vibe coding and sort of related to some of the things that you were talking about in your piece around like there's an expectation of designers to sit across like strategy and design and engineering and like producing the thing that they have conceptualized in a way that those expectations, because of everything that has developed in AI over the last few years, has gotten much more comprehensive. And I totally see that. And then I also feel this tension between like that and this other thing that I'm thinking about, which is I'm seeing a lot of people who are spending a lot of time vibe coding, trying to learn these tools, but are moving further and further away from their area of expertise and what they've trained in, what they're good at, what they've been hired for previously. And I see this across many different fields. And I sort of feel like there is this thing that happens with vibe coding where people sort of what Twitter was like 10 years ago, where you could convince yourself that you were like being productive. You were like, I'm learning, like I'm on Twitter, like I'm reading about the news, I'm like finding information. That's gotten harder in like the era of Elon Musk's Twitter. But I kind of feel that way about vibe coding, where people are like, I'm learning, I'm producing. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're just like sitting at your computer all day. And like, is that, and moving away from a thing of like expertise that you're very good at. And so like, I'm curious about, as designers move more cross-functionally, there's like a dilution in like being like excellent at a special and being specialized. And AI. And I don't know, those are a lot of jumbled up thoughts that I had that I've been thinking about. And then I read your piece and I was like, so
I love
curious if you
that.
have any thoughts around that.
I love that so much. Yeah, totally. I mean, I even trying to make the header for that article I wrote, I got into like an AI tool. I was like generating imagery. I probably spent like hours, whereas it was like, and then I was like, we're gonna reference Ballmer. We're just gonna hit it with the designers. And that was instant and super fast. I don't know if it was great design, but yeah, I do think there's a few things happening there. I think there's this like illusion of efficiency for sure. That is totally a trap. And you'll like get to like really, you'll get somewhere and you'll be like, oh, I'm like almost done. But same with like AI writing. It's like, if you read the words next to each other, you're like, oh, that just actually doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. And not only are you not getting better, but you're getting like further into this this real mess. It's very good at it generates so much stuff. And as like a writer and editor, and I'm sure you both have experiences, it's like you'll be editing things, you're trying to like preserve words but yeah, I agree. So I think you have to, what are your values, what are your principles, what do you want to be good at, and how can these tools help you get there? But yeah, don't fall for the trap
and not getting like lost.
So many different ways, there's so many deep little rabbit holes as you all talked about last time too. Like
totally,
you can go down. For sure.
Carly, thank you so much. And so excited to see the companies that are coming out of AIR, and we hope to have you back soon.
Cool. See you soon.
Okay. Bye. Talk to you later. So cool.
So
it's
fun.
Just a fun group of people we've had on today.
Really.
Okay. We have 4 minutes left.
Okay. Quickly. Soho House.
Okay.
Have you been following the story?
I have following the story somewhat, but and I have some thoughts, but take it away.
So top line notes are Soho House has agreed to go private. It's going private. It's going off the public market, and it is going to be owned by a privately owned. It is just like a couple figures, $2.7 billion enterprise value is what they've determined, and shareholders get about $9 per share in cash. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means relative to their stock price in a second. But a couple more details. Ashton Kutcher is in. He is one of the investors. He is on the board, Mr. Kutcher. Also, this MCR Hotels, which owns, I know you're a travel girly, so that might resonate with you. MCR Hotels, which owns the TWA Hotel, is part of the group that's going to be buying it. And part of the discourse around that is like, oh, maybe they'll like get designy, and I think people really like the TWA Hotel, so that felt like a part of a good news of the story. But the kind of bad news of the story is basically that the stock never really worked in the public markets. They IPO'd in 2021. It was priced at 14. It's peaked, hit around $14. But basically like the price was all over the place. Actually, I'll go to the next slide here. This was, obviously near where it IPO'd, 14, and then it's been sitting at around like basically up and down at around 9. Okay. So, but basically like there's been, since it's been public, there's like these quarterly earnings calls that have been, I think, people would argue like putting a lot of undue pressure on a business that's like experiential. And that is so determined by, like just people, customer happiness, that doesn't really translate. That's like a really soft KPI that doesn't translate in the earnings calls. And so like investors are like, hear these calls and they're like, what the fuck? And then they sell, even if it's not comparable to how the business is actually doing, just because it's the category of business that it is. But in going public in 2021, they've had to do a big push on members and growth. So their member base is now up 16% year on year. And I would say since 2021 is probably considerably more. They're at 270,000 members across 46 houses worldwide. I think also the general sentiment around Soho House, and I think related to their pressures on growth, is that it sucks now. Everyone's like, it sucks. It totally is cooked. Like you go in, and honestly, I think my biggest, I was a member, I'm no longer a member. And I think like part of it for me was like, man, I'm like going into the Soho House in Nashville. I could be like and you go into the Soho House in Barcelona, or you go into Soho, and you're like, I could be. It's so generic. You're like, I could be anywhere, and it's just there's nothing like special about the experience in any of these places, and it's a lot of people. And anyway, so they've like kind of lost their whatever secret sauce that they may have had previously in this like push for growth. But also at the same time, like they've been chasing something that maybe isn't fair for the type of business that they are with this like earnings thing, and that maybe going private will just be better for them as a business. So that's kind of the TLDR.
Well, interesting. I think Ashton Kutcher being involved is a perfect encapsulation of what has happened to Soho House. Tired and cooked.
Totally.
Okay, I think that's our show.
That's it. We did have one more story here, but maybe we
We'll
can push this
next week. We'll
yeah,
leave
we'll do it next week.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you.
Bye.